Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Black USA Crypto News. Another week, and I'm back. Actually, sorry, missed you last week. I got sick, and as I was sitting on my sick bed, I was wondering, can I do this anymore? I got a lot going on, and that's a great thing when you got a lot of things going on, but it can be a drain. I'm glad you guys allowed me to take a break. While I was taking that break, I was looking at a lot of the comments, the DMs, and messages from you guys. And, one email came in talking about the Cage Chain newsletter, which is a free newsletter. You guys can find that in the description. This reader said, "Hey, I read your Cage Chain newsletter and I made money." Wow, that's great. That's why I do it. That's one of the reasons why I do it. I mean, I enjoy doing it, but for people to get something out of it and benefit and make money, great. And I got a message from someone who said, "Hey, a friend of mine read your book, DeFi for the Diaspora, and they made money." And yet another reason why, one of the reasons why I wrote the book. So, all that stuff is very encouraging. And I got better and recovered and am not sick anymore. I just want to point people to these resources. So the Cage Chain newsletter can be found at www.cagechain.io. And you can go there and sign up for that newsletter. You'll get it weekly. It's a great midweek newsletter that covers everything in crypto, blockchain, DeFi, and NFTs. So let me get back to DeFi for the Diaspora, which is my book, and it covers decentralized finance, why it's important to the global Black diaspora. There's not too much more to say other than that. I'm not going to say what you see is what you get, because there's a lot of really great tips that I lay out there. I lay out some of the most important things about crypto, things you should know, and from a beginner's level to even from an intermediate, semi-advanced level. Now, there are people who know more about this stuff than I do, clearly, who are reading my book, and I'm getting some really great testimonials. I'll share those another time. But what I want to do right now is shout out Donnie Glover of the Donnie Glover Morning Show. Comes on every morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. Donnie Glover also has a show on Tuesday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern called The Donnie Glover Show. But starting out on Sunday evenings, we have 60 Minutes in Black with Mr. Michael Haney. Monday evenings at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern is Shared Space with Chap and Quita. Tuesday evening, Donnie Glover Show, like I mentioned. Wednesday evening is Sister Biz with Tamara and Nicole. And Thursday is the Black Business Roundtable with Doug Blacksher. Can't forget that. Last but certainly not least is the Blackout every Saturday morning with Tasemere Gathers. So what I want to tell you about Tasemere is she is my guest today, and I'm going to bring her in, and my guest has a special guest of their own. Hey, how's it going? You're on mute.
It's going well. Hello from the East Coast.
Yeah, you're coming out of New York. Whereabouts in New York?
I'm currently in the Bronx.
You said where?
The Bronx.
The Bronx. Okay. Well, welcome. Welcome to my show. Thank you for having me on your show. So I'm glad to be able to reciprocate and have you as a guest. Can you tell my audience what the Blackout is all about?
So the Blackout Live from New York airs Saturdays at 10:15 Eastern, and we talk about like Black trends that are happening as it relates to economics, and how should we start to digest or even dissect what's going on a global scale, sometimes on a city scale, sometimes on a coastal scale, but still a scale nonetheless. Trying to keep folks abreast of different changes that are happening in this business ecosystem. And so I will review articles that have come out. I have guests come on that can give their spin on a specific industry within business development or business happenings. And so we just talk about it, have some conversations about what does this mean for me? And this is my special guest, also my co-host. Some people call him my CEO, Elijah, who is joining us on this interview. He may chime in with his own opinions about what this means for the baby economy. I don't know.
Hey, he is more than welcome. We're all about crosstalk here. So if he wants to chime in, he is more than willing to. Well, so how about you told us a little bit about your show? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
So I am an urban planner by profession. And so I started doing neighborhood development, which basically explores like how neighborhoods are created, because I was really interested in understanding, why is this change happening? Who's doing this change? And that ultimately led me to working for a business improvement district in New York City. And a business improvement district is basically a public-private partnership, and every city has at least one, where they are really being strategic around the vision that they want for that neighborhood or that city, that commerce area. And I learned a lot about how to develop a culture for a community, how to attract retail to a particular area, and how to balance all the different stakeholders involved. And that led me to branching off in 2017 to starting the DM firm, which is a business development firm where I help entrepreneurs complete their business plans and think strategically about their next steps and growth. And I quit my job in 2019 to pursue that full time.
That's great. That's awesome. So I'm just curious, have you had a chance to speak with Quita of Shared Space?
No, I did speak to Chap a few times. Chap has also been on my show, and we have been talking about like his work in the Baltimore area and neighborhoods in particular around like homelessness and things like that and crime. And have had some really open, honest conversations on my take of what's happening, just from a bird's eye view, and some of the challenges that can happen when you have someone that's not from your community coming in dictating policy, dictating ideas and changes, and they're not really vested in the community or in the neighborhood or the people that they're serving beyond just what the demographics say. And that's a challenge and that's a problem. And so we talked about that.
Yeah, Chap's a great guy. I think, Quita has her project, which is called Smaltimore, the tiny homes in Baltimore and micro homes. So I didn't know if you guys had a chance to kind of talk about what she's doing and how that relates to urban planning. And I don't know, I think that'd be a pretty good conversation.
Of course, I will reach out to her now. But of course, real estate and home ownership is part of the whole conversation around urban planning or even rural planning. It's a conversation. People need a place to live. And so when you have people having places to live, you have to balance the needs of those residents, and how do they have access to certain services that they need. So it definitely goes hand in hand. When you're thinking about urban planning, it's always going to encompass real estate, transportation, food, right? You need to make sure that you have some sort of public health policy. How are people going to get to the hospital, the fire department, education? So it spans on a lot of different topics. So you can really have a specialty in what your specialty is when you're thinking about urban planning, development, or just how to build a city in a strategic way. Or town, village, neighborhood, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I definitely think your expertise with her vision, it could be pretty interesting what you guys are able to come up with together. So I've had some opportunity to kind of talk to her about doing some interesting things with small to more and blockchain. So, I don't have an urban planning background. I have worked, or I do work in the public sector and have a public sector background. I have a private sector background. So, and
we all
some background
have urban planning. We all have an urban planning background because we all are living in a neighborhood. We have access to a city, whether we're living in a city or we drive into the city to get certain amenities that we need. We all have access to some kind of strip mall or something like that. All those things, to me, can be considered urban planning. And we all have some thoughts around how we feel about changes that we see that's happening on our block. So if we just think like very small, people have lots of ideas around like home ownership and how to build equity in their home and what does this property coming in do from the value of my home, or renting. If you're a renter, you have thoughts around, rent prices going up and what happens to that, or why don't you have this type of grocery store? So we all have some experience with urban planning, even if we don't do it day to day as a professional.
Yeah, I agree. I was gonna say I don't have an academic background in urban planning, but I think you're right that people should think more broadly about how they interact with urban planning. But, I want to go back because a few weeks ago, I was on your show and you asked some really great questions of me. And I really appreciated you taking time out to invite me on your show. So I want to thank you again for having me, and thank you again for coming, of course. And so, just wanted to maybe kind of continue to see, like, after not walking away from the show, but coming away from that show, what did you have any other questions? Were there some questions that came up after the show ended, or what was the general feedback from your audience?
So thank you, one, for coming on the show and like letting me pick your brain for about an hour, I think, on just the basics of crypto, because I'm like a crypto newbie. If there's a word for someone even more basic than a newbie, that's probably where I'm sitting right now. So definitely thank you for that. Thank you for inviting me on your show. But to answer your question, I walked away with a better understanding of cryptocurrency, to be honest, before it seemed like such a large ecosystem that I didn't even know where to start to try to gain some understanding. And some of the terms were a little confusing to me, and you helped me with understanding what those terms meant. But more importantly, I started following NFTs not in a strategic way at all, but even being aware of the NFTs. And we talked about minting, and then I read an article recently about a young girl who sold a few $1 million in her artwork NFT, which I felt like I had more appreciation for the article because of our conversation. So I think that while I still have so much more to learn about crypto, blockchain, how to invest, what to do, I think that I walked away with more questions from a very intriguing perspective. And what does crypto mean for me in particular as an entrepreneur? How can I use this new technology and currency to continue to be innovative around what I'm doing in a way that is intelligent? Because I think with cryptocurrency, because it's the newest thing on the block, everybody is trying to get a piece of something, and the information and the resources that they might be going towards might not be reliable sound information, but you have so many people that are throwing around different terms, different coins, different systems that you can use to do this and do that, that it's easy to fall into a rabbit hole of doing a lot of nothing, and thinking that you're investing but not really investing in ways that are meaningful and that can grow your wealth, because that's really why you would invest. It's like, I need to figure out how to grow my wealth, right? Like, how do I turn this $100 investment to $100,000, right? And so how do I crack this code? And so I think there's so many people that are talking about it, and talking about it in a lot of different ways, that my conversation around crypto is, how does that benefit me as an entrepreneur? What can I do to understand crypto in a way that makes sense for my business dealings, right? Like, how do it took me, crypto is almost like intellectual property, right? I feel like intellectual property has been around for a long time, trademarks, patents, copyrights, but people didn't necessarily always pay attention to that, right? Like, how do I protect my brand? Do I get a copyright? Do I get a trademark? Can this be patented? I think that so many people are now getting into this intellectual property, and at the same time people are getting into crypto, and I think that crypto can like finesse itself into a lot of different facets of your life. But I think that if you aren't consciously getting the information from reliable sources, you can do more harm to yourself, right? Because you think that you know, and then you realize that you don't know as much, but at the same time you're investing too. So I think, yeah, I got plenty of questions in my head. I'm thinking about having my own coin. That we talked about, like, minting your own thing. I'm like, okay, that might be interesting for me to think about how to mint my own coin and have it, and figure out what I'm going to do with it later. How to accept crypto as payment, I think, is something that I'm definitely thinking about, since a lot of people are going to be using this cryptocurrency. Then how do I, have that as a payment option? Anything like same as American Express, Visa, MasterCard, cash, check. How can I accept crypto? So it's interesting. But I think my audience still had a lot of questions. But I think that they learned a lot. And I was able to have conversations. You know, when people come to me about crypto, I'm like, oh, so where are you going to go purchase it? What is that? What does that look like? So I'm super excited about my new knowledge.
That's great. I mean, you know, I think that we have a lot of people in the community who have been around for a long time, and we have a lot of new people who are joining or entering the marketplace, and that's a good thing. But like you said, there's more reliable information available now was you know, a few years ago, which is good, but there's a saturation, right? There's so much information, and you know, even now you got to cut through the reliable information to what is relevant to who you are and what you're trying to accomplish. And I think, you know, for anybody getting in early, one thing is, you know, how do I make money, right? And I think it's not like, hey, you read, you know, the Bitcoin white paper and that's it, and you know everything, and you don't have to do anything else. You have to continually read, research, and focus on, you know, what your objectives are. Like, this is kind of like, I mean, I research every day, and there are times when I get tired of it and I have to take a break and I need to stop and not do it, right? Because it gets to the point to where, you know, you can only take in so much as you know, just a general person, right? There's only so much you can take in and absorb when it comes to information. You need to take those breaks. So that's like someone, you know, if you're not understanding this, stop trying to go further, right? And the other thing about the information out there now is there are a lot of people who can communicate the information better than others, right? I understand this at a fairly technical level, and I try my best to be able to communicate it to people who are new, right? Who don't understand certain concepts. That's where I think, you know, I have value, you know, and that's where I try to give value, is being able to say, hey, this is a concept. I'm telling it to you in 30 seconds to 1 minute so you can pick it up, understand it, and understand how it applies to you and whether or not you want to, you know, pursue a certain project or if this sort of crypto makes sense for you.
But I think you said a really important piece is approaching this from what do you want to get out of it? Because I think a lot of people are not thinking about what do I want to get out of it. I think a lot of people are saying, this is this new cool toy, and I heard that I can make a lot of money. And so someone told me to just buy this coin, so I'm just going to buy this coin, right? So I think that for people to really, you know, keep the enthusiasm, but in that, at least think about what do I want to do and how persistent am I going to be about investing? Because I think, like, for me, when I hear people talk about it, it's kind of like I'm going to invest this one time, and they're not really understanding that this is another job. Like, let's be clear. Like, if you're going to do this, like, in a meaningful way, you have to be ready to take on another job. because I have heard that like these coins go up and down in value, and sometimes at 2 o'clock in the morning you might get a notification that you can sell for this at this point. But then if you sleep through the notification and you get up too late, now it's back to the regular price or it's down a little bit. So you have to think like, do I have time? Like, what is my level of commitment going to be for this particular outcome? Because if you're not going to be committed, it's not don't do it, but just change your expectation. Because if you aren't going to be reading up on the coins, reading up on the value, reading up on what's new that's coming with, and how does that fall in line with where you want to go, then you almost are playing yourself. It's like you just want to do it to say that you own crypto, but you're not really, and that's okay. Like if you just want to do it to have something to say, that's cool too. But just know what you're doing it for. It's like know what you're doing it for. And I think that crypto is gonna bring open, if it hasn't, a whole new like stock market thing of people are going to be paid to just follow the coins and like on the stock market and understand like I own this whole portfolio of clients cryptocurrency that I'm watching, and maybe I'm going to be the person that makes these decisions on when to buy and when to sell and what to do if that hasn't already happened. But I think that people just need to, figure out what role they're trying to play. I'm playing the role of trying to understand. That's my role. Like I'm just at the point where I'm just trying to understand and make this make sense to me. Not sure if I can be an avid investor yet because I still don't understand anything outside of what you have told me already. So I still have a lot more work to do. But I'm being honest with where I am in the crypto landscape.
Right. Well, I mean, that's good because I'm still learning too. There's stuff that I'm still learning every day. And like you said, you have to take it on if you want to be successful. Like the people who are the most successful, I think, in or out of crypto are people who are active investors, right? There's people who say, oh, I just want to be a passive investor and I want passive income into crypto. So I'm going to buy some Bitcoin and, I'll wait for the day that it goes up to $1 million, right? It's not going to happen overnight, Sure, it will seem like it will happen overnight, but, there's over 10,000 different tokenized projects out there. And there's opportunities with some of them, not all of them, but some of them. There's opportunities. And you have to do your homework. You need to do your research to find the ones and find where the opportunities lie. And, there are other people out there. I mean, everybody has, this is the other cool thing about crypto, right? You can have fun doing this too. Like you can have fun doing flipping NFTs. If that's your thing, go for it. Have fun doing it, make money doing it. And like, once again, that's the fun thing about crypto. You can have fun doing what you like. You can find ways to do this. And it's enabling a new economy. Like blockchain gaming is going to be the next. We're kind of on the edge of blockchain gaming being the next big thing in crypto, where you can essentially play games, earn crypto, which you can turn into money. So you're earning money playing games with crypto that you can then trade crypto.
Now you have me thinking of my nephew.
Sorry, say again.
You have me thinking of my nephew who is a Nintendo Switch fanatic. If he knew that he could potentially gain crypto, and for him, he's going to equate that to being magic money because he's like, I have some magic money. He's going to be into that. Like he's going to totally be into what game, what level can I make a game and get some crypto?
Yeah, I mean, even all this stuff with the metaverse, right? Creating stuff in this virtual world, creating games in the virtual world, creating events in the virtual world. There's people who are going to get paid doing that, right? Whether they're part of that event, like music is going to be reimagined through the metaverse, right?
Concerts.
Other events too. Concerts, exactly. All this stuff. The only thing, right, where to me, where I think we need to kind of have pause is really the metaverse now is an even more of immersive version of Second Life. Have you heard of Second Life?
No.
Okay. It's basically, it was
Life,
like,
wait, let me see if I got this. I did read an article around a guy whose fiance passed away and he was grieving, and they created like a robot kind of thing that would interact with him like on like written messages, almost like an email kind of thing. Is that?
no, that's actually transhumanism, or a form of transhumanism where, you know, basically your conscious or a person's consciousness is transferred into a computer, which I'm sure we will see some degree of a metaverse application of transhumanism. So in a way, yes, in a way, no. But Second Life was essentially it was a role-playing game that had this expansive world where you could be whoever you wanted to be in this world, and you paid to essentially have a second life. So, like you said, people would sit here on their computers, and I'm not knocking any of these people. You know, it's a game just like any other game out there, right? But you can get addicted to this game. You can get addicted to this second world. And that was what was happening. People who would be married in real life would go on to Second Life and get a wife on Second Life and get married to somebody else in another country, and that is and have a married life with them on the game. Meanwhile, they're not paying attention to what's going on in their real life, right? And they can also get a job and an occupation in this second life. So to me, that's like where do we draw the line with the metaverse, right? I think it's cool and I think it's great, and it's going to allow people to do things that they've never been able to do before. But where do we draw the line, you know, as a society to say, hey, how are we going to look out for people's well-being, mental health and well-being in all this, right? I really hate to kind of get it off into to that sort of commentary because, you know, people who watch this show probably feel like I beat up a lot on Facebook, but Facebook's great. It's great.
I just think that, you know, this just reminds me of the movie that Will Smith was in, I, Robot. I'm afraid of like robots and machines having so much influence and taking over, right? So for me, I'm like, I want to participate, because if you don't participate, you're going to be antiquated, right? Like these things are moving so quickly that, you know, now before, like, let's just take something really simple. And for the traditionalists and people in like older, mature ages, they never had to use computers before, right? They grew up pen to paper. A lot of things that were pen to paper have now become digitized, right? Like you got to go on the computer to make your doctor's appointments. You have to go on the computer to do certain things. And for people who haven't kept up with that technology, they're lost, right? Like they're like, how do I make my doctor's appointment? How do I check this thing? There used to be people employed to do that. Now there's like, do it on email, right? So that's like, so I understand that technology is something that whether you like it, love it, hate it, or in between, you have to try to figure out your learning curve of how to participate. Because if you don't figure out how to participate, you're going to be antiquated, and at some point, it's going to be so much work for you to even catch up to understand what to do with this technology, because you're going to be on such a basic level and everything else is like light years away. How, and to that point, I feel like we have to patrol ourselves, right? I think that like at what point is too much? Like I have said, are we going to now be like that show where people were living out of space and then on like another planet in like a spaceship and then had to rediscover Earth? Like, what do we do? Like, I don't know, like, where fantasy and reality is kind of blurring a line for me of like, how far are we going to make fantasy reality, and then what then becomes the reality and what then becomes fantasy? That's where I'm getting kind of like, so I understand the multiverse and how cool it can be, but it also freaks me out a bit, right? Like I'm kind of skeptical about this whole multiverse, but I know that I'm going to have to accept it because it has already happened. It's happening. The boat has sailed. It left the dock. And I'm going to have to figure out how to get on a life raft in order to like catch up at some point. But I just am a little concerned, like, are there new laws that are going to have to be in place to patrol this? Like, when you think about like, and I don't want to get like down the rabbit hole, but like sex offenders, like what happens with them in the freaking multiverse, right? Like what, how does this, like how, like what happens, right? Because these are things. So are we going to be like a reactive kind of society where we are waiting for things to happen and then troubleshoot? Are we going to troubleshoot beforehand? And then this is global. So like what happens? I just am I'm a little nervous. I'm a skeptic. I'm a little scared of the multiverse. I'm not very excited. I've met lots of people that are super excited about this new universe, and these are all these cool things that they can't wait to experience and do. I'm not on that bandwagon yet. I'm like holding out a bit.
I hear you too. Like, okay, so we have this whole thing called Web 3.0 that is emerging now. You know, it's getting bigger, and it's inclusive of a lot of different things, right? Blockchain technology, cryptocurrency, decentralized finance. That's one part of Web 3.0. Another aspect of Web 3.0 is virtual reality, augmented reality, AR, VR, right? And that's the metaverse. That's what's taking off, right? But once again, you're also seeing those two converge right now. And then you have artificial intelligence. That's also part of Web 3.0 that is converging with blockchain, AR, and VR. And then you have cybersecurity.
The robots are going to take over. This is Will Smith's movie, I, Robot, is happening in real life. And one of these supercomputers in a cloud or something is going to house all this information, and they might say, we know what's better for the humans because we're so much smarter than them. And then I this is iRobot, and we are going to be trapped because all of us have wearables. We have some sort of technology that taps into like a cloud system. I am a little afraid of iRobot in real life. It was entertaining as a movie, but now that it is becoming my reality, I'm a little afraid.
Well, I think going back to what you said, are we going to be reactive? Yes, because technology is outpacing legislation and lawmakers and regulation, right? There's new technology that is coming out before laws can get made around how that technology is going to be controlled. So, I mean, look at Congress. Look at what they're caught up on. You know, they.
And that's only here in the States. So, but what we're talking about is global. So we're like globally, everybody's going to have to get on the same page. And we know that that's not likely going to happen. And so it's going to be left to the people to, like, we as self-patrolling ourselves and having this dialogue, it's going to be left to us to say when enough is enough, right? Like, that's going to be up to us, but it's not going to happen because you're going to have some people that are in love with tech, and always wanting to push the envelope and always wanting to make fantasy reality in some kind of way. You're going to have some people that are like trying to catch up and figure out what this means. And then you're going to have some people that are going to hold out and be resistant towards it. So I don't know. I feel like this is complicated. What are you going to do? What are your thoughts about the metaverse? Are you going to participate in the metaverse?
So, you know what? I think what I want to do now is not talk about the metaverse. I think we should be talking about how we as Black people should be trying to get together. And if we do it on the metaverse, I'm all for it. But, you know, in particular, when it comes to some of these projects in crypto, you know, I think it's incumbent upon me to raise awareness around some of these. So if you don't mind, I definitely like to table that discussion because, you know, like, you're right. It can get very philosophical and, you know, but, you know, there's projects out here that are really trying to make a difference, you know, so, and trying to make people money too. So, you know, as I say that, I also say that, you know, what I'm about to share with everybody is not financial advice. It's not legal advice. It's not tax advice. I'm just sharing information. And obviously, cryptocurrencies have a risk of loss. So, you know, make sure to consult with those professionals when you're making these decisions, or at the very least, do your own research, right? So one project that I'm actually, full disclosure, I'm an advisor for is called the Tau Network. Now, I don't know if you know about this one, but it's been around since 2016. You know, I've worked on this team for quite some time, and they basically have created a decentralized tokenized blockchain for artists. They also have a strong commitment to the Black community. So they started out as a music industry token to help musicians and artists get a fair shake in the marketplace. It is a layer 1 blockchain that is EVM compatible. When I say that, I don't know if you're familiar with the Ethereum blockchain. Have you heard of Ethereum yet?
Only when you
we've talked about Bitcoin.
And I don't even know what a layer 1 blockchain is. I told you, I'm like beyond the newbie. I'm like basic.
That's okay. So it's just, it means that it's how it interacts with, or how it is different from Ethereum is it is its own blockchain. If that's probably what you need to know, is it's different from Ethereum, given that it operates on its own.
Okay.
The best way to describe it, but I think that's what the important takeaway is.
So with the new platform that you just shared, is that similar to an NFT? We're just going to wait for our host to get back. We are now talking about a new, well, not so new technology around supporting Black artists. Well, not Black artists per se, but they are committed to Black artists in the community, and they have some sort of coin, I think, that you can use. So we are just going to wait for our host to get back and explain this a little bit more. This is Tasemere, a co-network mate on the network of BlackUSA.News, with my chief of staff, my co-host, Elijah. So we're learning about Bitcoin, blockchain, cryptocurrency from our host. Talk to us, you guys. If you're out there, definitely jot your questions in the comments. As you guys can see, I'm a super newbie. Our host is back.
Okay, well, I don't know what happened there. But
I kept the audience entertained. I just recapped what we had been talking about.
Did you drop off, or did I just drop off?
You dropped off.
Okay. Well, isn't it interesting? Hey, let's talk about Black Project.
and again, he mentions the word Black, and I don't know what's happening here. We're just waiting for our host to be reconnected with us so we can continue talking about this kind of could be new project. So we're just waiting. He will be back momentarily so we can finish this discussion.
Hey, how's it going?
As soon as you mentioned the word Black, I don't know what happened.
Hey, you know what? Are you able to hear me?
Yes.